Everyone. Today we're going to do a class on hip mobility. I know all I ever teach anymore is classes on hips. It seems like that is primarily what the requests that I get anyway are for hips. And I don't know if it's just because a lot of us are still at home or working from home and maybe we're sitting more. I don't know. At any rate, I feel like mine are always tight lately, so that's what we're going to focus on today. It'll be a little bit different than normal in that it'll be a little bit more hip-based movement instead of hip stretches. I'm going to take off his collar so at least it's not jingling around. Cortez, lay down. So let's go ahead and we're going to start seated. Come on. With the soles of the feet together. So I know this isn't the most comfortable maybe way to begin a practice, sitting in this position, but do your best. So a couple things we can do. If you feel like you're really rounding and the knees are way up in the air, go ahead and sit on something. So maybe you fold up the edge of a blanket just to lift the hips up. If you've got a yoga block handy, seems I don't, you can sit directly on that. That'll help with that lengthening up. If your knees are still lifted, don't feel like you need to shove them down. If it's uncomfortable, you can even take blocks and support the knees. If bringing the feet in close to the body feels like too much, then don't do that. Take them out a little bit further and see what happens there. So find somewhere that feels slightly, like the tiniest little bit, more intense than neutral. Right? So it shouldn't feel like a lot. This should not feel like a struggle. It should not feel like an incredibly deep stretch either. So find that place and then go ahead and close down the eyes. Okay, we're just gonna breathe together just a couple breaths. So let's do 5, that's more than a couple, 5 breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, still breathing nice and long though. So let's breathe in and out through the mouth. Again, in and let it go. Inhale and breathe it out. 2 more, breathe in and release. Last one. And let go. Good, so from here, go ahead and open up the eyes and take the legs out in front of you. So heels pressing straight forward. I'll scooch back a little bit. And then lengthen out through the legs as best you can. So same idea here. You feel rounded, elevate the hips, sit on something. Still feel rounded or tight, or maybe it's just a middle ground. Like for me, I feel tight, but I don't feel like I'm rounding. So I'm not gonna elevate my hips, but I'm gonna slightly bend my knees, and that's okay too. So let's breathe in and reach up, and breathe out and reach forward. Breathe in and reach up. And breathe out and come forward. So keep going there at your own pace. As you inhale, maybe you roll up, maybe it's a flat back, and same thing as you come forward. Maybe you take a flat back until you drop the head, maybe the head never drops. So just take a couple more here at your own pace, right? And we'll actually do a couple and stick to 2. And last one. And then once you come up, go ahead and bend at the knees. Take the feet kind of wide though. So there's no way to know the perfect distance here until we start to figure that out. So let's drop both knees over to the right, and then here's where we can kind of determine that. We want the left knee connected to the right heel. We want the right knee pointed straight back. So I'm sitting sideways on my mat, or kind of sideways, I guess. So here my right shin is parallel to the short edge. My left shin is parallel to the long edge. So I'm kind of making the Z shape with my legs, and that's where we want to be. So lean back into the hands these first few times, and then just come up and over. You should land in the exact same way over to the other side, connected, at least close. It's not going to be exact, and that's all right. Kind of depends on thigh to shin ratio and all kinds of other things, how far our feet are away from our sit bones. Good, so just take a couple from side to side. Flex the feet while you do this, kind of pivot off of the heels. Toes are up in the air while we're moving, and then flat towards the ground when we rotate. And just notice how this feels in the hips. Yeah, and then keep going, but maybe you remove the hands. Maybe hands can come to prayer position in front. Depending on how long the legs are, you may have to kind of move them out of the way, up a little higher. And for me, I find that I kind of start to move with this. If I'm not positioned on the hands, I'm sort of walking my way towards the camera here. So just notice, try and stay as still as you can. That's tough for me for whatever reason. Good, so go ahead and again, lean back on the hands, come up and over and land on the right side. Good, and then here, reach up through the fingertips. Chest is facing the right shin and calf, and then fold forward as much as you can without completely lifting off of the mat. Doesn't feel too awful intense for this right glute, right hip area, and we're not gonna drop the hands though. So we're just gonna exhale, come forward. We're gonna inhale, come all the way up and over, same thing, left side, exhale. Good, inhale, up and over, same thing, exhale. Good, so just take a couple more again, right? So we wanna end up balanced. We'll end on our left side after one more full round. If you've waddled off of your mat like I have, go ahead and scoot yourself backwards. Feet position just the same. We'll take this first round a little slower again. Let's come over to the right side. Now this one will not be for everyone, and that's okay. So we're gonna tip our knees over to the right, and then we're gonna lift up. Good, and maybe that's with the help with the hands, maybe that's with the core. And then we're gonna drop back down. We're gonna move, and we're gonna lift up. So let's go ahead and come back to center and we'll start all together. Let's do this one all together. So here we're gonna have our exhale and our inhale. Maybe the arms go up too. Exhale as we're moving and inhale as we lift up. Okay, let's just do one more of those each side. And back to center. Good. And then the last thing that we'll do seated here, just another hip mobility exercise. Also will work the core. Different leg position. So this one's different. It's going to be stemmed off of cow face pose. So let's go ahead and do our best to come into that posture here to get us started. So cow face pose, if you're unfamiliar, we want to take our right heel next to our left hip or glute, and the left one's going to be the same thing over to the right side. Now this is a pose that does not look the same on everyone, and that's okay. So let me give you options, because how far you go into it doesn't make a huge difference, because it doesn't matter how you look, it matters how you feel. So this is as far as we want to be for this particular version of this pose. We can maybe take this left foot closer to the knee. The left knee is more lifted and the left knee is pointed more towards the left instead of straight forward. This is totally fine. What we're looking for is a nice deep stretch through the outer left hip, okay? So where you find that is great. Maybe we even tip that knee up towards the ceiling. Maybe the foot is even stacked to the other side, okay? Let's just try it with the other leg before we start moving. So let's take the left side to the bottom again. So step one would be right foot to the outside of the knee, knee pointed up. Okay, step two would be to cross it over and pull it in. Step three would be to drop it down, and step four would be to pull it over as far as we can. Okay, so find where you are on each side, even if it's completely different. And then let's lean back into the hands. I got a lot of stuff going on behind me. We're gonna lean back, we're gonna lift up and recross and come forward and land. We're gonna lean back, lift up, uncross, recross, come forward and land. So keep going here at your own pace. We're going to inhale and exhale as we come forward. Maybe we take the hands out of it and come into a bit of a boat pose. That's a lot harder. The balance part and the abs part maybe is not the difficult part. It's the legs crossing and getting those feet out of the way. Take one more each side so that you're evened out. Yeah. And if you're not on the same count as me, just land when you are. And then let's come all the way up. Feet stacked. Lean back. Boat pose. So knees can be bent. You can hold on. You can hold on to the feet. Wherever works for you. Hands on the ground. Legs bent or straight. Breathe. And then take those feet down. Let's come right into child's pose. My dog is very interested in the camera. I'm waiting for him to knock it over. So find your child's pose with wide knees out toward the edges of the mat, and that'll depend on how your hips feel and how wide your mat is. Let your forehead come down toward the floor so that you feel like your chest and your belly are dropping between the thighs. Get into the hips a little bit here even. And then press up, tabletop. Remember, you can always find your way back into child's pose, and that's true at any moment of your practice. So from table, just take a couple cat-cows. Begin on an inhale as the belly drops and the chest rises, and on each exhale, cat pose as you round. Take just a few here. Noticing the spine. And then come back to neutral. Stretch your right leg straight backward. Good. And then let's circle that foot around. You can do that with a flexed foot as we normally do in yoga, or you can point the toes. For some reason, whenever I circle, it makes more sense to point. So make your circles as big or small as you need to. So the smaller and tighter they are, the easier it is to keep the rest of the body pretty still, right? And think of that as one of the goals here. So go as big as you can while keeping the rest of the body relatively still. And then just change directions. And tuck that knee into your nose with your next exhale. Lengthen it out as you breathe in. And then exhale, step it to the front of your mat so that you land in a kneeling lunge. Curl the back toes under and spin around. Come to a wide-legged forward fold. Toes pointed towards the long edge of the mat, and let your whole body fold over between the legs. And it doesn't matter if your hands are resting on the ground, if they're on your shins, if you've got a block, that's all great. And let's just sink in here for a few breaths. Shake out the head a little bit. Release any tension in the neck. And then let's walk the hands back towards the top of the mat. Feet are pivoting. Let's sink down into this lunge here, nice and low, and just kind of rock it forward and backward a little bit. So we're kind of up on the back tippy toes and then pressing back through the back heel. Body stays nice and low the whole time though. Front leg is still bent no matter what. It's becoming a little bit more and then a little less bent as we come forward and backward. No matter what though, the knee never extends past the toes. Good. And then drop the back knee, lift the arms up. Take a little bit of a back bend as the hips drop low. Exhale, hands down to the ground. Step both feet back, downward facing dog. Take a little bit of pedal through the legs here. The calves, the hamstrings release just in your own time. Noticing how they feel as well. And then come down to tabletop once again. Left leg stretches straight backward. And then go in either direction. Doesn't matter which side you start with or which direction you begin with, clockwise or counterclockwise. Just start to circle that leg. The circles can be really tiny, as big as they can be, without the body moving much, right? So we want to keep it pretty still. That'll use a lot of glute strength, a lot of core stability. Pull in through the belly and change directions. Gaze should be down at the ground, just a few inches in front of where the fingertips land, keeping the neck in alignment with the spine. Lengthen back and exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, stretch back. Exhale, step that left foot up in front, curl the back toes under, and then walk towards the long right side of your mat, wide-legged forward fold, but then here we're gonna move. So toes still face the long edge of the mat, That said, we're going to slightly bend through, alternating knees. As we do so, we want to send our hips back behind us so that the knee's not jutting forward, extending past the toes. Good. And just take it from side to side. Maybe the alternating straight leg, the toes lift up. And maybe this goes with the breath or a little quicker. And back to center, we'll walk the hands forward. Low lunge here. Back knee is lifted, hips sinking low, chest coming forward. We'll take it forward and backward. Right? Motion coming from that back foot up onto the toes, pressing back through the heel then. Dropping the back knee down, let's raise the arms up just for a quick breath. Chest lifts up high. Exhale, hands down to the mat. Let's take it to a child's pose. Check in with your breathing. We establish that breath at the beginning of our practice by exhaling through the mouth, and although we want to, through our movement practice, at least mostly keep the mouth closed as we breathe. Right? Pace should be pretty similar. So come back to that. And then press up and back, downward facing dog. Inhale, come to plank pose. And then lower all the way down to the belly. Let's go to Sphinx pose here first. Feet a little wider. Toes press backwards. Elbows press down. Shoulders draw back. Chest lifts up. Glutes can be engaged here quite a bit even if that helps to lengthen out your low back. So if you feel this in your low back, squeeze through the glutes some more. Feel like you're pushing your hip bones down into the ground. And then lower down to the chest. Just pause here for a moment. Elbows can go wide, head resting. Slide the hands beneath the shoulders, and then let's take Cobra pose. Sliding the legs toward each other, squeezing into the midline of the body. So legs squeeze inward, elbows squeeze inward, shoulder blades squeeze in. Good. Relax down. Press up and back, downward facing dog. Breathe the right leg up into the air, and then bend at the knee and tip the hip open. And exhale, take your right knee way out to the side, touching the outside of the right elbow, and then breathe it in, three-legged dog. Exhale, step the right foot about halfway up on your mat. It's going to feel really awkward. Take it all the way to the outside of the mat, turn the right toes outward, and then flip to the left hand, pinky toe edge of the left foot. So we're kind of in a supported side plank. Right foot's pressing down, left leg is long. So take your right arm up high and extend, lengthen from those left toes through your right fingertips. And then go ahead and drop this left hip down towards the floor. You might be sitting completely on this hip. You might be lifted a bit like I am. Lengthen out here through the left rib cage. Try not to shrug your shoulder all the way up into your ear. Really press with the hand. Good, and then lower down onto that left hip, and now the left elbow. Keep your right foot positioned just like it is. Go ahead and point those left toes. We're just going to lift and lower, lift and lower through the left leg. 3 more. Exhale, inhale. Good, 1 more, breathe out, breathe in. And then let's circle it. So tiny little circles going in one direction. And tiny little circles switch directions. Good. Set that foot on the ground, flex the foot, stack the legs, both feet flexed, and then lift up through the right leg. Maybe you grab hold of the right toes and just pause. Press into the left elbow so that, again, that shoulder's not all the way up in the ear. And then release, roll to the belly, and press back to child's pose. Good, in child's pose this time, knees can be together or apart. Let's focus a little bit more on the upper body. Really reach through those fingertips as the forehead drops down to or toward the floor. Maybe it doesn't touch here. We're only gonna stay for a moment. And then lift up, press back, downward facing dog. On your inhale, take the left leg up high, bend at the knee and tip the hip open. I'm going to take the left knee to the outside of the left elbow and then breathe in, three-legged dog. Good, step it up halfway, weird and awkward, to the outside of the mat, toes out, flip to right hand, right pinky toe. So here we're lifted. We're going to reach the left arm up and then we're going to take it up and over, lots of length. And then we're going to drop down. Good, we can release that left arm. Maybe it's positioned on the floor, helping a little bit here. Lengthen out through that whole right side, pushing into the right hand, right shoulder's not in the ear. And then release. Come to the elbow, left foot stays here. We're gonna point the right toes and we're gonna lift and lower. Good, 4 more. Here's our exhale. Inhale, breathe out, breathe in. Breathe out, breathe in. I lost count already. Let's do 2 more. Breathe out, inhale, exhale, inhale. Good. And then take those little circles in either direction. Doesn't matter which side you start with. And switch. And let that right leg rest, foot flex, left leg extends on top. Good, we're pushing into this elbow again, so we're supported and lifted. Leg goes up, we can stay here, or we can reach for those toes. And release down, roll to the belly, hands beneath the shoulders, and then press up. So maybe you come into a cobra, maybe you lift a bit higher, maybe knees leave the ground, upward facing dog. Into downward facing dog. And then step forward with the feet and backward with the hands. Takes a little bit of coordination. Come to the middle of your mat and widen out the feet. We'll sit down into goddess pose. So in goddess, toes turn out, heels point in. All of the weight's in the heels. You should be able to lift and wiggle your toes and not fall over. Hands at heart center. Elbows push into the knees connect, pressing into the elbows. Good, and then maybe here you can shift a little from foot to foot, get a little deeper into the hips. Try and lift the chest up high. If this does not feel good for you, you can always come to a seated position on your mat, taking the soles of the feet together, just like where we began in bound angle. Good, and then let's release the hands. Really slowly taking them back and behind to a seat. And then let's actually come all the way down onto our backs. Knees to chest. Take a couple breaths here. Rock and roll around on the low back. And let's take the feet to the mat, knees bent, arms at the sides, palms down for bridge pose. On an inhale, press the hips up. Good, we should release all of that, maybe that we felt in our goddess, through the fronts of the thighs, and then exhale, come back down nice and slow. So quads and hip flexors, glutes are working here. Let's go ahead and again come up as we breathe in, and come down as we breathe out. We're going to take a couple more like that. On the next one, stay lifted. So lift up, rock the shoulder blades closer together. Perhaps the hands clasp beneath you. Press down into the feet as the hips lift up high. Shoulders back and down, neck is long. And slowly come back down to your back, knees to chest, just for a little squeeze. And then reach for the feet and come into happy baby. So here, I typically hold on to my big toes with my peace sign fingers. If that feels good for you, do that. Another route that I really like to take, though, it helps me to get a bit deeper into the hips, is take my arms through the legs and wrap them around the outsides of the feet. So a lot of times we do grab the outsides, but from the outside, wrap through the middle. Good. And then the elbows can help press the knees out and away. Get a bit deeper into the hips that way. So just take a couple breaths here. Maybe you rock a little side to side. Release knees to chest. Good. And then here, keeping the knees dropping in toward the chest, we're going to cross right leg over left leg, knee over knee. So just like we did cow face pose seated, and we're going to do the same sort of thing. So we're going to cross right over left, and then we're simply going to switch left over right. This will engage the core, right? Might not feel like it. Keep going from side to side. You can even put your hands on your belly, core grabs on. If you need even more, lift the head up while you're doing this. And then do this maybe 10 more times. If you need more through the hips, you can give a little tug on the feet each time. As they pull in towards the hips, will increase that stretch. And the next time you land with left over right, head will come to the ground if it's not there already. And let's tip the knees over to our right side. Left shoulder connects with the mat. Head can turn left if that feels okay. Close down the eyes. Slow the breath. Come back to the breath. It's the major part of our practice that really grounds us, slows us down. It has so many physical, mental, emotional benefits. Right? Focus on that groundedness right now. It plants you into this present moment. And come back to center. So left knee should be over right knee now, and now we're just going to do the same thing, switching from side to side. Head can be down, head can lift up, and or we can give those little tugs. So it can be any combination of any of that. We won't do quite as many here because we're getting both sides anyway, which we've already done. Next time you land right over left, stay there. Head will come down onto the ground if it's not already. Knees will now drop to the left side. Right shoulder plants down firmly. Maybe the head turns to the right. You come back to that really grounding breath. There's so much going on in our world right now. And just connect, even just for a moment, with the here and now. Come back to center, knees to chest, feet to the floor, knees go wide, soles of the feet come together. And as always, hands can really be in any position here. I typically like to take one hand to the chest and one to the belly, really feel my breath. Another great option that I love is to take the arms above the head, making another diamond shape. Wherever you are, just let the whole body drop in. Close down the eyes. As we wind to the end of our class here, you can stay here for Shavasana if you like. You can tip the knees up towards the ceilings so that the low back is supported. If taking that route, maybe take the feet wide, knees fall together. Or you can stretch the legs out in front of you, arms along the sides, palms facing the ceiling, coming into full Shavasana. Additionally, feel free to come up to a seated meditation, sitting supported but relaxed at the same time. Wherever you are, I will leave you here so that you can remain for as long as you would like. Thank you for allowing me to share your practice today. Namaste.